Hello everybody and welcome to Cause and Effect, a show about Vetas. Today we have the great honor to have Martin Randers, who won the North American Championship with us. And we are going to talk about the North American Championship and a little bit about Vetas in general and how it differs from in Europe and in the US. But first, of course, I would like to, as always, introduce my two beautiful co-hosts. Adam Esbjörnsson, say hello.
Hello.
And Isak Esbjörnsson Bjärmark, say hello.
Hello.
Yeah, nice. So, Martin, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself to our viewers? Who are you and where do you live, what do you do?
Sure. I'm Martin Randers. I'm a Danish player who lives in Aarhus, the second largest city in Denmark. I am 32 years old and I work as a software developer. I've been playing Vetas, well, I started playing it in '94 when the game came out. But then I had sort of a hibernation period from, I don't know, 95, 6 to 2000, so I had some years where I didn't play. And then I took it up again with my friends, and then we started going to the EC and the NACs and stuff, so we kind of just, started traveling, playing the game.
Okay, cool. Do you play every week and such with your friends, or is it just like casual now and again?
It's casual now and again. It's at some point I think we had like a weekly or bi-weekly game at a local store, but that store closed down, and so then we kind of stopped doing that. And people got older and stopped playing, so we're not that many players left.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. We're greatly honored to have you with us, and we're gonna have a fun time, of course. I don't know, Adam or Isak, do you have any questions before we begin?
No.
Party rockers in the house.
Yes. You guys are a big help. Thanks.
Is the Earth round or flat?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So,
can you email a glass of milk?
I hate you guys. So how was the NEC?
It was a lot of fun. It was the third time I went to the States to play. I went to Atlanta 3 years ago, and then the last couple of years I've been to Ohio to play. It's I like going to the States to play. It's they got a lot of awesome people, a lot of great players, and kind of like I like the mood over there. And it's just fun to go traveling.
How many Vetas players were there at the event?
Actually, I think we were around, I don't know, 70. I'm not sure actually. Not that many. Not as many as the European tournaments.
Okay. Well, why do you think that is? Just speculating now, but
well, it's you'd have to ask the Americans, I guess. But it's I actually don't know, because you would expect that. A country of their size should actually be able to, sharing the language and all, should be able to produce a lot of players and have a lot of. I don't know actually why they don't have more players at the big tournaments. It's
well,
good question.
It seems to be something with the size, at least, because like small countries like Denmark and Sweden still produces a lot of players that travel internationally, and there are like big countries that don't have nearly as many.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about Ropicon, the Finnish ECQ, which is usually 90 players. This year it was 70 though, but it's more or less the same size as the NEC. But
yep.
As you said, it's hard to speculate about this area.
Yeah, and the United States and North America is kind of big, so it's a lot of miles to travel as well.
Yeah, it actually is bigger than Europe. I didn't think of that. Europe is very small.
Yeah. Anywho, before you played the championship, you attended the Week of Nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
How was that? I've never been to one.
It's fun. I think it's 2 tournaments a day for 4 or 5 days, which is kind of intense because you can play a lot of Vetas. This year they
Kind of intense.
yeah, well, it's kind of relaxed. I think it's because there are a lot of tournaments and people don't necessarily bring their most evil decks and most competitive mindset. It's not to say that it isn't competitive, but it's I think it's relaxed to play, and we played at a
Well,
bar.
it has
so
to be, doesn't it? Like, because it's so many tournaments, it has to be relaxed for people to actually manage it. I'd imagine. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. If you just went with a I have to win everything mentality in every game and you play 2 tournaments a day for 5 days, then you'll just it'll be too
How
stressful.
many rounds were there in these tournaments?
It's only 2 rounds in the final during the week of Nightmares.
So it's manageable.
It is, but still up to 6 games a day. That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
But you, Isaac.
No, we're just agreeing.
Okay, I think. But do you think that helped you in the actual championship, like being able to play with most of the players and getting a feel of how they behaved and such?
Well, I think that because the play group is somewhat smaller than in Europe, I know more of the players over there than I do in Europe. I've actually played with them sometimes, so I actually do know how they play and stuff. Most of them anyway. So I think that's an advantage to know how people play and what kind of decks they tend to prefer and stuff.
Did the meta in the Week of Nightmares then did it resemble the one that were in the championship then, like, because people played the decks they were going to play and such?
I would say that when playing the Week of Nightmares, you will meet some more casual decks, as I said, because you have so many tournaments. And I think that people tend to bring the better decks for the NAC, of course.
Yeah.
And the mindset might not be as competitive as during the NAC, but I don't know if the meta is different during the Week of Nightmares. It's hard to say, actually. Possibly.
Would you say that there's a difference between the American meta and the European meta?
I guess there is. I don't actually attend that many European tournaments. I mean, I attend the EC and I've been doing that the last lots of years. But I only really play Danish tournaments. Other than that, I've been to Sweden, of course, sometimes, but I haven't been traveling that much in Europe to play. So I can only actually compare the EC meta to the NAC. Mm-hmm. And I guess if I were to say one thing, it would be that there tend to be maybe a little less political decks at the NAC, I think. But other than that, it's hard to say, I think.
Is there a difference in play style between the US players and the American players?
Or in dealing, maybe?
Yeah, I think that there is less table talk in general at the American tables than in Europe, and I actually like that. Just playing the game, trying to draft your prey. That kind of suits my playing style. But you do, of course, have table talk, of course, and I think it depends on the players you're actually playing with.
That's really interesting. Just because, as you mentioned before, the language thing, the American is actually. They're talking their native tongue, the game is in their language, etc., etc. Except the UK and Ireland and such, of course. But for most Europeans, it's the second language. So every time you end up table talking, you do it somewhat less efficient than you would in your native tongue.
Yeah, of course not. It's not a language barrier that prevents the American players from speaking at the table. It might be. I think that. Well, I mean, when I used to play casually back home before actually going to the EC and stuff, we basically never table talk. We just played the game, tried to draft our prey, tried not to get ousted and stuff. Mm-hmm. We might, help each other just a bit, like, would you like to rescue my guy from Torpor? But then again, actually doing the rituals and stuff, we never did that when playing. But then I went to some ECs, and then it became rather obvious that a lot of players there like to talk and try to just get one VP, get half a VP, just go for the maximum amount of VPs in every game, trying to maximize it.
Yeah. Okay. Adam, you've been over the pond as they say, and played as well. Do you recognize some of the things that Martin said?
I only played one tournament, and it was not the NAC. It was I think New York qualifier, something like that. So it didn't have the presumably jovial kind of atmosphere that you could find at the convention. So maybe that weighs into it as well. But I recall that the most of the talk was purely social. There wasn't much dealing going on. People they were playing like their own game. There was talking, of course, but most of it was like, okay, how are you and what have you been doing, and this is a funny vampire and stuff like that. So I think I'd agree, but I only been to one tournament, so yeah.
Okay, so Martin, do you have any tips for a European player going overseas and trying to make it in America?
No, I don't know. I think that, I would definitely recommend it because they've got a lot of really nice people playing, and they've got a lot of really, really skilled players. I don't think that you shouldn't underestimate them. Just because they don't table talk doesn't mean they're bad players at all.
Yep.
They have some extremely strong players over there, and it's fun to play with them, I think.
Yep.
So I would just, if people from Europe consider going, I would just say, go and bring good decks and bring good spirits, and then it'll be fun.
Okay, so you don't have bring that kind of deck if you would. Like a hurry deck.
Well, supposedly the Gurus are winning a lot over there, so I guess if you're going to play the NEC, then bring the Guru deck, of course.
Yeah. We should mention when we were doing the research earlier, Isaac made a horrific discovery.
Terrific.
Terrific. That in the last 4 NACs, the 3 of the winning decks been Gururi. So this year and 2011 and 2009, a Gururi deck has won tournaments. 2 out of those 3 decks have been played by Europeans as well, which is also kind of funny. So as a European, play Gururi.
Yeah, it seems to work.
Yeah, okay, so anyway, going on talking a little bit about the actual championship. What deck did you play?
So at the NAC, well, I played my Gurui Bodhi toolboxy thingy, which it was an old deck which I just recently dusted off and replaced a couple of cards, and I decided to bring it, and I played it during the week of Nightmares at some tournament, and it took me to the finals. So I decided to play it again, because at that finals I had Weenie Dementation as my first predator, which meant that, well,
yeah,
not really my perfect predator for that deck. So I never really got a game there. So I thought that the deck deserved a second chance to actually have on at a tournament.
Okay, yeah, we will in the second half of the show we will go in depth and analyze the deck. So so don't worry about it, viewers. It will come. But before that, we will talk a little bit your way to the finals and what happened there. So, what did you think the meta would be? Like, what choice in the championship?
What I thought it would be?
Yeah.
Well, that's always hard, because we were some Europeans over there. Randy from Sweden was there, and Mikkel and me from Denmark. Jesper as well from Denmark. So was that all the Europeans?
Hugh,
well, Hugh was there as well. Yeah, don't forget the small bread.
He's practically American. He speaks the language.
Yeah.
Hugh will eat you alive for that.
Okay.
So, I think I have a horrible track record for trying to predict the meta of a tournament. So I sometimes prefer to play more toolboxy decks, because you're not that dependent on the meta when playing toolbox. You can't really take advantage of guessing it correctly, but on the other hand, you won't hurt by guessing wrong. So I think that kind of influenced my decision to play something that was somewhat toolboxy anyway.
Yeah. So you wanted to be prepared for everything, basically.
Yeah, you can say that. It's I don't know how do you predict a meta? It's I think it's hard anyway. You might say, oh, I bet there's going to be a lot of stealth bleed. I got to play my deck with 15 deflections. But then again, if there's not a lot of stealth bleed, then you can look at your 15 deflections.
I think the trick is to be like a hard-boiled detective and just feel it in your gut. It's going to be like this, and then you go with your instincts.
It's like film noir.
Yeah.
What? It's more like being psychic. Just like, yeah, probably.
That's not very nice.
No, just taking a chance, and then if you were right, talk about it for the rest of eternity.
And if you were wrong, just don't mention it.
Don't mention the war.
Yeah.
But I think that you should always consider the difference between playing day 1 and day 2 of the bigger tournaments, because it's 2 different tournaments.
Okay.
Because on day 1 you only need to go to, well, in this case top 25, in Europe top 40, and a lot of decks will be able to go to, say, top 40, but will probably not win a tournament.
Yeah.
So on day 1 you should play a deck that's able to, go far but not necessarily win. And on day 2 you should take a deck that can actually win a finals.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very true, I think.
Yeah, okay, so what's an example of a deck that can go to the top 40?
Any stealth bleed, I'd say. Dementation Weenie, Markavian 94, basically any basic power bleed or heavy bleed deck takes a game win, usually in a tournament, or a few points here and there as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree, Martin.
I do, and you tend to see a lot of bleed decks on day 1, and that's why you also see a lot of the classic Ventrue grinders, the bounce decks basically, because they do well in a tournament with a lot of bleeders.
Okay, so not going too much into detail in day 1. What did you play day 1?
I played Kayacid, not stealth bleed, but more of a toolboxy deck. Actually, the deck that took me to the finals of the NAC last year.
Okay, cool.
So what did you face on your way? Or, sorry, Anders, that's your...
No, go ahead.
What did you face on your way towards the finals in the day 2 tournament?
On day 2, I actually tried to just memorize it, so writing it down. I faced some Tremere decks, common Tremere decks with classic, well, more or less classic blocky decks with some bleed and some bounce. I faced a bit of theft and stuff, Yeah. I faced a weird Trudia deck with Krasimir and Inceptor and doing outside the hourglass and what's it called, the Domain of Evernight to put you to torpor. Weird deck. I met some
that seems awesome.
I think it was Bill Truxell. He always plays weird decks, but they seem to work often, so it's awesome. I really like playing against them. So I also met Hugh was playing girls, I think, with Age. I met him in round 2 actually, but the fun thing was that his predator was Sonam, who was playing, it seemed like kind of a anti-girls deck, so he was playing Giovanni with Crocomancy, and his combat package was Cold Aura and Stun Cycle, so he would send to 1 and shoot for 4 and prevent 2, so that the girls with bats didn't really work.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah, that is.
So that actually, I think that got me my first game win during the tournament, because they just wrecked each other, and I took them out. And my Grand Predator, Mark, was playing some Nocturne bleed deck, which was kind of, of course, rather fast and rather aggressive. So my Predator really had to be defensive during the game. So actually, I almost had free reign. I had my Prey and Grand Prey destroying each other, and my Grand Predator destroying my Predator. That was, a good game for me.
So you had your time to build your little sandcastle, and then just shoot the shit out of them with a howitzer.
Yeah, basically.
Is this your metaphor? That when you're in a really good position in Vitas, you're in a sandcastle? That's like you're impregnated with forces?
But you missed the punchline. You shoot with a howitzer. from inside the sandcastle.
Okay. Your metaphor makes no sense.
Okay, guys, moving on.
Sorry.
So, were there any other notable moments in your way towards the final?
Well, I don't know if... I think that the second game that I just talked about was the most memorable, I guess. The third one was rather weird, but I actually got a game in there as well, which put me on in first seed, which enabled me to select the position at the finals, which was basically what won me the tournament, I think.
Yeah.
Personally.
Cool.
So, this will end up being a cautionary tale. I love this.
What?
A cautionary tale about you should always be first seed.
Ah, of course.
To get as many points as possible in a tournament? Is that
Yeah.
your...
Okay, screw you. I take my sandcastle,
You guys
my
stop
howitzer, and go.
bickering. So that brings us to the final and the seating. Cool. Adam, can you hook us up with some graphics?
Okay. You're almost there, hooked up.
Yeah. So, how did your opponents arrange themselves, and what did you think when you sat yourself at the position and so on?
I don't remember the actual order they positioned themselves in, but when I looked at the table, I hadn't actually played against any of those decks during the preliminary round, so that was kind of weird. But I just found out what they were playing actually, so I hadn't seen the actual decks in action, but I knew what they were playing.
Okay.
And I just knew that I didn't want to sit next to James because he was playing Armanes with, I think, more combat than me, which would break me. He could block, he could bleed, and probably outfight me. So I didn't want to sit next to him. That was my first, priority. Then I had to decide whether or not to sit behind or in front of the Turbo Baron deck. And I mean, I didn't want to sit in front of the Turbo Baron deck with my deck. So that basically only left me one choice. So yeah, in front of the Fairy Watch deck and behind the Turbo Baron.
Why didn't you want the Turbo Baron in your arse?
Well, because basically my deck isn't that fast, and I guess that if his deck could, go off, then he would actually just oust me. I wouldn't be able to do anything about it, really.
Okay. Did you have any concerns about the Fairy Ward deck?
Very much, because I knew he was playing Fairy Wards, and but I didn't know how much bleed he actually packed. And a lot of times during the finals, I was rather worried that he would be able to oust me, because he had, I think, 3 guys with dominate in the game, but didn't seem to have that much dominate, which was good for me.
Cool. So what were your tactics then sitting down on the table? How did you want the table to unfold?
Well, I mean, I basically knew that besides the Turbo Baron deck, that the other guys were playing, blocky decks that should be able to survive for some time. So what I basically wanted was, I didn't want James to oust John too fast. So didn't want my Predator ousted too fast, because the Armanes, I didn't want to sit next to those. So with 3 defensive decks on the table, it's probably going to be a timeout. Also the finals tend to take a longer time, so timeouts are more common, I think, in the finals. So of course I could have used the strategy of trying to prolong the game, but actually I didn't. And that was the weird part, actually, that the other guys spent a lot of time talking to each other, just discussing, in my view, irrelevant stuff. And they just the clock was ticking, and I was just looking at it and thinking, well, this is good for me. So basically, the Turbo Baron deck got rather close to ousting the Awesome Ghoul deck.
Really?
Yeah, quite close. But the reason he couldn't oust him was that a bit of his offense was based on daring the Dawn to do unblockable bleeds and burn the Baron, of course. But the ghouls stood there with unmasking, so they had +2 intercept versus D actions, so he couldn't really get through. He needed 3 stealth on his actions, and he didn't pack that much stealth in his deck.
That's normally what happens with the Baron and allies. So, but almost is good for him then. So almost
must be very, very good in your position, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think he got Adam down to like 3 or 4 pool at some point, so I was actually getting worried at some point. But I think so the only oust in the final was me ousting my prey, which actually I actually won the finals fair and square. I didn't just win it on timeout. I ousted him with maybe 20 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So the only one oust is you ousting Matt with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was it.
Anyone else were close to?
As I said, Matt was quite close to ousting Adam, but I think after ousting Matt, I kind of spent some blood on. I spent most of the blood on my minions and stuff, and I couldn't really do anymore because Adam stood there with his allies and his intercept, and my predator John had a vote lock, so I ousted my prey without actually passing a vote, which was kind of weird.
So, but did you have any problems with ousting him? Was it just bleeding, or did you do any special moves?
I think I just let him now and again. It's just a bleed here, a bleed there, and he did have some pool gain in form of a couple of lanes, but then again, it's a Turbo Baron deck, so it's really it's a deck that relies on speed, actually just going through the table, not surviving in the long run.
Yeah.
So your positioning in the finals were key to your success.
Yes. I think that was the only reason for my success, actually. In any other position.
Now you're selling yourself short. You actually got to be first seed through playing good. So you're selling yourself short.
but I think it's just a testament to the fact that positioning in the finals especially is really, really important.
Yeah.
So knowing what the other people play and being able to position yourself correctly is just it's at least half of the finals to have the correct position.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have could have gone any other way if they hadn't talked so much? Do you think would you have been ousted if they had gone on longer? Or?
I think that John's deck didn't really seem that it wasn't that offensive. It had a lot of fairy wards, and it had some Ashore tablets as well to recycle his bleed. So I think the idea for his deck was to in the long run just survive as a wall, and then oust its prey at some point. I think that James would probably have gotten John at some point, possibly because Adam wasn't able to put any real pressure on James because of the Baron deck. So James was just wrecking into John.
But if James would have gotten John, then he wouldn't have won. He needed to have outed John and you.
That's true, but I mean, if John had been ousted, then I would have had the vote log, and I would actually have been able to call votes to do damage to my prey unless James blocked them. But again, I think that probably that John would have been. I don't know if he would have been ousted. I don't remember actually how much pool he had left. The problem for James was, of course, that every time he actually tried a directed action, which John could block, then John would put fairy wards on it, and so he had a guy tap two turns. So yeah,
the fairy ward is so ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah, but it is.
It's really powerful. But so there's just
it's also
that one
unplayable because it's only on younger vampires, right?
Yeah,
it's only younger. But was the only situation? The only situation where someone else but you was close to ousting was when Matt was close to ousting Adam in the start there, or was there some other situation where another player could have gotten a victory point and start ousting?
James was never in any danger at all. So Adam was in a horrible position at that point. I don't think he could hope to actually gain VPs. So he could just survive, basically. He might have been able to, if he had frontal assaults and dragon down, so he might have been able to do some weird stuff at some point, putting James to torpor, but I don't know. I think that it's so far away now, but I seem to remember that at some point that John was in some danger because James got a codex of the Danish groundkeepers into play, so he would actually be able to bleed. And I think he had a Heidelberg as well. So if he could tap out or torporize John's minions, he would have had a bleed potential for a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You usually do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true because of the ready stuff with the codex.
Yeah.
Codex. Yeah, cool.
Isaac?
No, I was just agreeing. I'm sorry.
You're agreeing.
You really want me to talk, and when I started talking about sandcastles, you cut me off.
That was all that.
This is a show about Vitas, not a show about sandcastles.
I
You have to start your own show about sandcastles.
Okay, well, I think that's it for this this half of our show. We will take so we will come back and we will analyze the deck that took Martin to all the way in the next part. So yeah, watch the next part. I lost my train of thoughts.
Right.
Bye.
Goodbye.